out some of the chlorinated gases that have a deep impact on our climate. So delivering on this pledge, well, today we're going to hear, and we just heard, 63 countries have already signed up, which is a massive achievement by, yes, thank you. It's a massive achievement by the UAE presidency, really lifting this forward. And today we're going to hear some inspirational examples. So delivering on this pledge, well, today we're going to hear, and we just heard, 63 countries have already signed. Have His Excellency Dan Jørgensen of Denmark, and Her Excellency, I think, Rosalinda Toypan of Kenya will also be speaking, as will Her Excellency Madame Chandok. But national governments alone cannot do this. World cities are heating up, and so city actions have to be done, smart city planning. And the truth is that we have regulations on fire hazards, on electrical fires. It's already there. We surely can introduce regulations for smart building that will create better passive cooling. This is critical and something that I encourage cities and countries to introduce. And manufacturers and industries can lean in to ensure that we get better efficiency for our cooling. We from UNEP are extremely proud to be serving this important area. We are proud also because on the issue of CFCs, we have been hosting the Montreal Protocol for decades. We are, of course, hosting the Kigali Amendment. And on the methane side, as you know from yesterday's many events, we are also very much hosting that. So it's a great honor for us also to be supporting the cooling pledge and to be holding the secretariat for this pledge. So that's really what I would like to say. As we will hear from some very cool speakers, this is an important topic, and a topic whose time has come, because it is again a low-hanging fruit like methane. And if we get this cooling pledge to work, we will reduce our CO2 and some of the short-lived climate pollutants very rapidly, which is of course where we want to go, because this is where the cool folks hang out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Inger Andersen, the Executive Director of UNEP, with the powerful opening statement. And right on cue, without further ado, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome on stage a gentleman who's been championing Global Cooling Pledge for, well, a long time. As Inger Andersen described there, this is over a year in the making, but many, many years have led up to this very exciting moment. So it gives me great pleasure to invite on stage Mr. John Kerry, the United States Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Inger. Thank you for your great leadership and comments. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you very much for being here. I know that Dr. Sultan is going to be here at some point, or I hope he's going to be here at some point. But let me just share with all of you that the United States is pleased, proud even, to have worked with the UN Development Program and the COP28 presidency in order to bring so many partners here to be part of this global cooling pledge. Now, some of you may sit there and think, well, isn't that the whole objective of what we're doing here? Well, yes, and avoiding the heat or avoiding the heating is probably the beginning of the effort to try to cool. But the fact is that this global cooling pledge can have a profound impact on lives around the world, and on our larger quest, obviously, of holding the Earth's temperature increase to the 1.5 degrees. So this is really laying out a roadmap for how we go farther than where we thought we were going anyway with the Kigali Amendment. And the Kigali Treaty, I was there in Nairobi when we did it. Kigali was hard fought, it was tough, but we got it done, and now we have, I forget the exact number, 100 and some nations that have ratified and moved on. But what we don't have is a recognition, if you will, of the challenge that we face because of the increased rate of warming that's taking place. Things are happening faster than anybody ever imagined. And so we want to lay out a pathway to reduce cooling related emissions across all sectors and increase the access to sustainable cooling. Sustainable cooling obviously acts as both a mitigation and an adaptation strategy. It is both. And coordinated international action on sustainable cooling could save 78 billion tons of CO2 equivalent between now and 2050. That is more than 2 years' worth of global energy emissions, folks. So this is serious business. And it's a big difference. The Kigali Amendment, we all know, could bring us 0.5 Celsius of cooling. It's that much of a reduction. Implementing this pledge actually accelerates Kigali and brings us 0.1 degrees of cooling by 2050. That's really important, given what is happening. And what I mean by given what is happening is extreme heat is now the deadliest weather event in my country, at least. But this is true, obviously, of many other places. You can already see people who are dying massively. About 500,000 people a year are dying from extreme heat around the world. And the problem is, as it gets warmer faster against some of the predictions that we all made, that means that people demand more cooling, more immediate cooling that comes through air conditioning by the most part. And that air conditioning then becomes a problem because not everybody has transitioned according to the Kigali effort so that they're using less pollutant damaging internal some of the HFC equivalent, which is so dangerous. So that's the challenge here. And we're working with our partners to do something creative, something ambitious, something that reaches beyond where we had a comfort level in doing Kigali that we were all happy. And so we're really pleased to have worked with a lot of other partners to establish the Global Cooling Prize. And this is a groundbreaking competition which led to the development of an air conditioning unit that has 5 times less climate impact than standard air conditioning units in the market today. And we're already seeing the market entry of some prototypes from the competition. Obviously, we're hopeful that competition is going to increase the number of different units that are available that are going to do less damage. We're very pleased that the pledge, which we're asking people to join, calls for countries that have not yet ratified Kigali to join the 155 countries that have ratified it. And I congratulate the UAE for joining the Kigali Amendment, which they did at our methane and other non-CO2 greenhouse gases summit on Saturday right here in this theater. I call politely but firmly on other countries who haven't yet ratified, please do so. This is life and death, and it's really not a complicated way of making a difference. It's also important for countries who are already in Kigali to maximize the very rationale for them going into that Kigali Amendment. This is the way we gain more, faster, protect more people, and we maximize the effort of coordinating action on efficiency in cooling. We manage refrigerants across their life cycle, and we have the ability, hopefully, to announce an expedited HFC phase down. So, my friends, we are supporting robust action through the Montreal Protocol's multilateral fund for early action to reduce HFC consumption and to promote improved energy efficiency for the hydrofluorocarbons, HCFCs, phase out, and hydrofluorocarbon phase down. Phase out, phase down. And the United States is very proud to have worked with our partners. Just this past October in Nairobi, the nearly $1 billion historic replenishment of the Montreal Protocol's multilateral fund for the 2024 to 26 triennium. My friends, these funds are going to support the implementation of the Kigali Amendment, including the early action and improving energy efficiency, which is really critical to be able to achieve the cooling. So once again, really big thank you to those of you who are taking part of this, those of you who are supportive, those of you who are going to fight to make sure this happens, to bring more people to the table. At this stage, it's just not excusable not to have everybody. There are about 195 countries here, and there are people all over the world who depend on all of us to make these choices. So let's band together, become the crusaders, the people who are willing to fight for this transition faster. We have an ability to save lives. We have an ability to do Kigali faster. We have an ability to actually get cooling beyond Kigali, and we have an ability to implement this on a much faster basis. Shame on us if we don't take the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
If you are weighing your options about which city you want to settle in Canada, look no further than Toronto. Toronto is
Wow, what powerful words and what a powerful endorsement of the Global Cooling Pledge. We are honoured to have the presence of John Kerry, the United States Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. The illustrious lineup of speakers coming from across the world, it continues. It gives me great pleasure, without further ado, to introduce our first panel discussion. So may I invite up on stage, and we'll do it one by one because I think they all deserve a big round of applause. We're going to be looking at global perspectives, raising ambition in sustainable cooling. And to join me for this, His Excellency Danny Jorgensen, the Minister for Development Cooperation and Global Climate Policy from Denmark. Damalo
Okay, good evening, everyone. You're welcome to this workshop. So, just as we've communicated earlier to all of you, it's a virtual workshop that comes with certificates and it's 2 hours intensive workshop. It will begin at exactly 6:10 p.m. where our first speaker, Mr. Kwabena Isaac, will take us through. He's from EPA. So I want all of us, we have contacts, right? We are also live on YouTube. So I want all of us to share the link with our friends and all our class pages. Yes. So those who are in charge of publicity, please help us. I'm sure people are online, but they haven't seen the link yet. The link hasn't really gone far. I'm here to send a final email. So please help us reach out to as many people as you can. And we will start at exactly 6:10 p.m. Okay, so invite someone to join right now. You're also live on YouTube. So with time, I'm going to share the YouTube link to anybody who's not able to join on Zoom. So yes, thank you very much. So let's anticipate by 6:10, the first speaker will be in. So because of that, by 6:05, we will take our opening prayer and then we start. So let's invite our friends to join us. And also, more importantly, we are encouraging all of us to join with our names, the names we registered using the link. Okay. Yes. The name we register using the link. So we have our speakers. Once they are ready, I'll just make them co-host and then they can share screen. If you are not a speaker, you are not a co-host, you can't share screen. Yes. So if you're a speaker and you come on board, please alert me so that I make you a co-host for you to be able to share the screen. So we have people joining us from all areas and all regions in Ghana. People are joining from UCC, University of Ghana, and some are even down with school, but they are joining us. So please, let's share the link to our people to join. I know people are watching us from YouTube and Facebook too, but we need a lot of people here on Zoom to make interactive too. So after the presentation, they are going to present in 20 minutes. After the presentation, there'll be room for questions and answers. So as the presentation is ongoing, you can jot things down or you can put things down so that when it's time for questions and answers, you can ask our presenters any question. And those of you who have not seen the program outline, the first session, it's by EPA. So the EPA will give us a talk on the climate change in Ghana, especially with the sciences and evidences and everything related to climate change in Ghana, how it started, the impact, and where we are heading to. They'll give us a full detail of it. And then we ask our questions. If you have any question, you see Accra is very hot and the rainfall pattern is changing in Ghana. What is causing it? What is the impact? What should we expect as a country? This year we are experiencing extreme heat. What should we expect in subsequent years? They are going to brief us on all this. And then the next speaker will come from Women in Sustainability Africa, where they will highlight or talk to us on some sustainable practices. You see, climate growth with sustainability and all that. So they will talk to us on sustainable practices. They also educate us on some opportunities or especially for women, because it's a women entity. Just yesterday, we celebrated International Women's Day. That's why we brought them in. Okay, yes. So they also talk, especially with emphasis on women and the ladies here, how sustainability can help us as a country and the culture of sustainability in our homes, in our schools, and every place we find ourselves. Okay. And then the last speaker will talk about some careers and opportunities in climate change. I mean, as you have come here, what are some of the opportunities that you are likely to learn? Some things that you'll be learning apart from you gain the certificate. Maybe after here, some of you are going to divert your careers, or some of you are going to change your staffs. So we have a lot of careers like green energy, we have sustainability, we have climate sciences, we have climate scientists, we have people who are into climate finance. You can see every year we have people who go to COP and all that. I mean, it's a broad field. Climate science is a broad field that's we can all embrace. Okay. So they are also going to highlight on some of the opportunities that are available for us and all that. Yes. So let's embrace. I'm going to share the link with everyone. I'm still sending the link. I don't want to spam, otherwise WhatsApp can ban me. So if you've not received the link, if you registered, I'll send the link through your email. So just check your mail and then we can start. Or you can also go to YouTube you search my full name, everything is there, and you can join us. Okay. My name is Barrister, and I'll be moderating this session today. So by 6:05, we'll take our opening prayer, and then between 6:05 and 6:10, you'll take our welcome address, and then at exactly 6:10, we get our first speaker. So let's share the link. You see, people are still joining. We have 40 people on the line. People are watching us from YouTube and Facebook. This is the first of its kind, and let's make it very awesome. So what you're doing is that if most of you are able to patronize them, you get involved. My director told me we can make it a series. So we can have it in the next session where we can even have more people who come from top organizations to come and talk to us. So this is not the first time it is going to happen. We are going to have it in subsequent ones. Okay. 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 So if continue to share the link, let your people join. I mean, if you registered, I've sent the link, your email. So check your student email, whether some of you provided a wrong mail. So we are still sharing the link on your WhatsApp platforms and all that. So please. If you are a co-host, please, or if you're a speaker and if you join, let me so I make you a co-host. Probably may not join with your full name or something, but surely once.
Please, a friend is asking me for the YouTube link. Please, can I get a link?
Okay, I'll get it for you shortly.
All right, thank you.
So I just place this in the chat. You can have
All right,
it.
please, thank you.
All right. So we have 63 people joining us from, we are expecting more than this because a lot of people registered. Anyway, we are about starting. We have 1 minute to start. Just 1 minute. Okay, so let's start. We will take everything we begin in the name of God. I know we all believe in something, even if you don't believe in anything. So we all believe in something. So we will take our opening prayer from CC. So CC, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Hope you
CC.
can hear me.
Yes, please. We cannot hear you.
Okay. Please, shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you once again this evening. We thank you for a wonderful webinar. We commit this webinar into your hands. Let it be a successful one and a remarkable one this evening. We thank you once again. Just we pray thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Thank you very much, CC. So just like I've communicated earlier, this is just 2 hour session. So by 8 p.m., we should finish. Okay. And we have our speakers here with us. Mrs. Anita, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Barrister.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. So you can mute now since you are not talking now. Okay.
Sure, thank
Then,
you.
sure. Miss Valerie, can you hear me? Are you there? Hello, Valerie. Okay. Then we are expecting Mr. Ansan to join us. He's the first speaker. Let me give the welcome address. I want to welcome all of us to this special webinar. My name is Barrister from University of Ghana. The should I say the current president and the founder for this climate club. So what we do is that we educate students on climate change. I only go to level 400 until I realize this particular issue for University of Ghana. So as students, it's good that right from the scratch, even from the basic level, undergraduates, we educate students on climate change. You go around asking people about climate change and realize that a lot of them don't have any information about climate change. So as students or as somebody who wants to solve a lot of issues, what I did is that I got our patrons on board, Professor Kwajo, who is the director for Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies. He's also the Claim Coco project, which is a national project. He's a chairperson. Prof is our main patron in our subsequent webinar. He'll be one of the speakers. And then I got in touch with Dr. Boafu, who also joined us. He told us it's a good idea. So he actually joined us to do all this. And so we have two patrons, Dr. Boafu and then Professor Kwadio. So what we do is that we educate students on climate change. And also we draw your attention to some sustainable practices as students. So we also go to SHS, we go to basic schools. I'm sure some of you know we come to your classes to talk. Yes, we also do what we call community engagement. Just last week, we completed one, should I say, 20-minute interview with one of our patrons that we are yet to release the video. It's about biodiversity loss and then climate change. So as students, we hold climate change, or we have very important role in also advocating for climate change. And our core issue is that we want to look at the fact that we Africans, we don't contribute a lot, but when it comes to the consequences and the effects, we are most vulnerable. So it's good that we come out with ideas, we come out with technologies, we come out with a lot of sustainable practices that will help us adapt to the current or what we're moving on to. So it's good that as young people, we become aware of this national issue. I have a background in economics. What I say is that when you destroy an environment, it takes a longer time to repair it or to recover it than when you destroy an economy. In just 2 years, the economy went to recession through COVID-19. Okay. But you can see that after some time, we bounce back. I mean, we are surviving as a country. But once you destroy a forest, it will take you a number of years before you're able to get the forest in its shape. If you destroy a water body, it will take you a number of years before it will take you a number of years before the water heals itself. So it's good that as students, as young people, we adapt these things in our studies. You may be an engineer, or you may be studying engineering, you may even be studying political science. But I'm telling you, when Accra was hot, we were all hot. It's only geography students or climate change students who were feeling hot. Yeah, those of you outside Ghana, you may not know, but this year Ghana was very hot to the extent that even air conditioning could not contain us. So that is the main reason why this whole thing was formed, so that we could educate. We have sponsorship. honestly, we are looking for more sponsorship. We are looking at CDK, and they are part of this workshop. They are going to talk. We are looking at them helping us do all these things. We are also looking at EPA assisting us in all these things. So I wouldn't talk too much. I want to know if the first speaker is on board. Let me check. The first speaker. So if you are sending me a message right now or you are calling me, I may not be able to answer your call, unless, of course, maybe a WhatsApp message. Okay. So Mr. Ansan is here. He's from EPA. So Mr. Ansan, can I hear you? Can you unmute so that I make you a co-host and you can share the screen? Or you want to?
Good evening. My name is Isaac. I'm not Ansan.
Okay. Okay, sure. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Isaac, the floor is yours. So I'm still looking for your name. Please, what's your username? Isaac. Okay.
Okay. I'm the one talking now, so maybe you can.
Okay. Okay, let me make you the co-host. So you are the co-host now. Please, the floor is so you have 20 minutes to present, and after the 20 minutes, students can ask you. You have 10 minutes for questions and answer session. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'm glad to be on board for this discussion. In fact, when we talk about climate change and discussions around climate change, I don't know, 20 minutes will be enough for me. But yes, I'll try and be snappy and make sure I meet up the time. And I'm also glad to meet one of my classmates on this call, Adams Aziz Abdullahi. Adams was my classmate, and I'm glad to see him on this call. So without wasting much time, I will delve into the discussion. And I wanted to share a screen, but I'm not permitted to share my screen for the presentation. But all the same, I can still talk. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So this evening, my assignment is quite simple. Just as we are going to delve deeper into the entire climate change discussion, I am looking at the science or the evidence behind climate change and why we are talking about this climate change. What is the basis of it? And that is what I'm going to touch on. As time goes on, I'm sure, as the facilitator mentioned, you get to know much deeper information into it and how policies, global policies, and national policies are developed when it comes to climate change. Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay,
Okay.
we can hear you. So
You
you can
hear
even
you.
share the screen now.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let me share the screen. I hope you can all see my screen now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, please. So as my name was mentioned, my name is Isaac Obradanso. I work for the Environmental Protection Agency. I'm with the Climate Change Unit. And so I'll just give a brief background about the climate system, which I'm sure is not new to us, and then look at the energy budget, then why we are talking about climate change. You know, some people have the view that climate change is not human-induced, but it's a natural occurrence. But then, even though it's a natural occurrence, humans play a big role And that is why we want to address it at that level. Then I come up with my summary. So when we look at the climate system, because I'm a Christian, I will say God, in his own wisdom, created the atmosphere and the interactions in the atmosphere. So if you look at the climate system, we have, apart from the atmosphere, we have the mesosphere, the stratosphere, and the rest. But then the comfort place for humans is the atmosphere. And the atmosphere comprises of the hydrosphere, biosphere, yes, the biosphere and the rest. And this is how we get to live. These are some of the things in here that help us to live. So when we talk about the kind of food we eat, when we talk about how we reproduce, when we talk about the production, what we wear, where we sleep, and all these things, it happens within the atmosphere. And God created this system in a balanced way. So whatever comes in a balanced form. And I must say that the atmosphere consists of a composition of gases. And from our basic level, we know that the earth has more of nitrogen and oxygen. But then when we are talking about climate change, or we are talking about global warming, we don't talk about nitrogen or oxygen. There are specific gases that we keep mentioning. And the question is why? So as I mentioned earlier on, all these gases were given to us in a balanced form. Now, if we take a critical look at Venus, Venus is very hot. And the reason being that it has more of some of this composition of gas more than others. And that was a natural phenomenon created by God. So in the normal way, this is how God created us, that the sun will give us light. But the amount of energy that is coming from the sun, after doing its work on the atmosphere, in the atmosphere or on the earth, it has to bounce back to the surface. But then sometimes some of them are refracted, some of them are absorbed by the clouds, and some of them too are absorbed by water vapor and other gases. And you know, all these gases in the atmosphere has their peculiar characteristics or properties. Some of these gases has a characteristics we call a global warming, called a greenhouse effect. And when we talk about greenhouse effect, that means they can be able to absorb temperature or energy. Then they can reintroduce that energy back to the atmosphere. So when the energy hits the atmosphere, the amount that has to go back to the space do not. As I mentioned, some of this energy is being absorbed by the gases that has that peculiar characteristics, and they later introduce this energy back to the atmosphere. And that is what increases the global temperature as we see. So the more these gases are concentrated in the atmosphere, that means the more they can absorb these gases, they can absorb the energy, then release it back to the atmosphere. So if these gases are lesser, then that means these gases will not absorb more, and therefore they can't warm the globe as it's expected. So per what I showed earlier on, you could see that with the composition of the Earth, the gases in here, we have nitrogen to be 78%, oxygen to be 20.6% thereabout. We have other gases that makes about 1.4%. And we have something like argon, water vapor, carbon dioxide, neon, and the rest. And you could see that they are all in minimum or little quantities. But then most of these gases in that 1.4% are the ones that has the peculiar characteristics called the greenhouse effect. So they are the ones that can actually do the kind of work we are doing. And as is displayed here, you could see that their percentages are less. They are less than 2%. So if these gases are less than 2% and they are having such an effective they are having such an effective and high intensity to actually warm the globe, then if they are more or their concentration are increased in the atmosphere, you can just imagine what will happen. And so just as the facilitator mentioned, this year, the temperatures have been rising very, very high. For instance, about 2 weeks ago, I was in Sunyane, that is the transition or the middle belt in the country. And the temperature rose up to about 43 degrees Celsius. We know that in Ghana, our normal temperature, even for the human body, the temperature is 36, 37. So even if your temperature rise up to 38, 39, then you are having fever. And you know, our temperature, our body temperature actually takes what is in the atmosphere. So that is why when you put water in the fridge, it takes some time and becomes cold, just like the temperature in the device or in the fridge. And the same way, when you introduce something on fire, the temperature takes that of what the fire is, and that is why you get something to be hot. So far as we are living in such a condition, and we have our temperature raising up to 43 degrees, then that means we are already in that condition where we all have fever. But then that is the normal condition as at that time. Our temperature is mostly within a certain range. So the moment there is an increase, then it has a whole lot. And what we are talking about, we always look at the global average temperature. But then if you are going to what countries are facing, just a 1 degree increase means a lot. And so back to what we are discussing, the temperatures. So if you look at the picture on your right, you can see Mountain Everest. And Mountain Everest, as you all know, is the highest mountain in the world. So that is where we find the troposphere. And so from the troposphere out to the thermosphere is all the atmosphere or atmospheric space. And most of the living conditions happen within this space. So for instance, when we find the maximum ozone is where the ozone layer is. And from the Earth to the ozone layer is around 20 kilometer height. And within that space, there is a level of temperature that is constant. Then as you go higher, it rises and declines as it's expected. But then the more these gases are in this space, it changes the natural flow or the natural temperature of such areas. Now, I mentioned greenhouse effect, and that is what is causing the globe to warm. So, as I mentioned earlier, when you talk about a greenhouse effect, it's a natural phenomenon that warms the Earth's surface and temperature, and it mostly occurs when the energy of the sun is reflected back to the space. And this reflection happens because there are some gases in there. And some of these gases, as I mentioned earlier on, is carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, nitrous oxide, and the rest. And they actually act like a blanket. And so when the sun is coming, they absorb the energy of the sun hits the Earth's surface and is going back. They absorb it, and they later dissipate this this energy back to us. And therefore, instead of the energy going back to the space, it finds itself in here, and we still continue to receive the energy of the sun. So the more they are in there, the more they increase this concentration. And that is what disturbs our life. Yes, and as I mentioned earlier on, this energy from the sun is what we call the greenhouse effect, and that leads to global warming. And when there is global warming, a lot of things happen, and some of these things is the sea level rise, and this happens as a result of the melting of the glacier ice. And mostly when we are talking about climate change, we are looking about two things. We are looking at the change in the rainfall, and at the same time, the drought conditions. So if it's not raining more than what we expect, or if it's not raining excessively, then it is not raining at all, and that is the drought condition. So the interrelation between these two and the climate variability is what causes climate change. And yes, some people may come with an argument that there are natural factors that cause this change too, because there are natural factors that cause the release of some of the gases I mentioned earlier on. And something like volcanic eruption, ocean heat exchange, and albedo and the rest all leads to introduction of some of these gases into the atmosphere, and it is true. But then we have something we call nature assimilative capacity. So whatever happens, nature on its own could have been able to absorb this into the normal range or the desired range that it is. But then, because we are also doing things to introduce most of these gases in abundance, then it becomes a problem. So for instance, when we talk about pollution, there's a difference between pollution and contamination. When you take a water, for instance, the moment you get a drop of any form of particle in the water, it becomes polluted. It doesn't take the original or the natural shape of the water again. It becomes polluted. But then, not all pollutions gives reaction when you, let's say, drink. Not all polluted water give reaction when you take them. But then, when it becomes contaminated, then it becomes a detrimental substance for you to actually take. So the more you introduce pollution or other substances into water bodies, it becomes polluted, and it gets to a point where it becomes contaminated and nothing can be done about it. And that is how this discussion is about. So the natural factors leads to the pollution or leads to the introduction of some of these gases. But the nature assimilative capacity can absorb these natural factors on its own because they barely happens, or they happens once a while. And so by the time it happens again, the nature on its own will be able to address their effects. But then because we are also on the regular doing one or two things to introduce most of these gases into the atmosphere, then it becomes problematic. So when it comes to the gases, as I mentioned, we have the natural factors that introduce some of these gases, and we have human or anthropogenic activities that introduce. So I have this table here, and I'm indicating the natural factors against the human factors. And I wouldn't like to go through all, but you could see that the natural factors are just cutting across. And they, as I mentioned earlier on, they happens once a while. But when you look at the human actions, it's on the regular. We are always driving cars. We are always buying food for one or two activities. We always want to eat, so the agriculture activities keep increasing. And the more we eat, the more we produce waste. And so we produce organic and inorganic waste. And these wastes also cause what we are talking about. So each and every time we are doing one or two things in order to introduce some of these gases into the atmosphere. I don't know my time, but on my last slide, what I would say is that the underlying factor of what we do is for us to live on this earth peacefully or without any form of stress. And so we need water, we need soil to grow our foods, we need technology, and a whole lot of stuff. But then the underlying factor is our population. So as our population keeps increasing, then that means our strive or our quest in needing most of these things for our developmental agenda keeps increasing. And that is why it has become a necessity to actually get all what we want in a way and manner that wouldn't affect the environment. So all what we are preaching is we have to grow, we have to develop, we have to eat, we have to do a whole lot of things. But then how can we do it in a way and manner that wouldn't affect the earth or the atmosphere we find ourselves in? And therefore, we are looking at living in a sustainable and a good manner in order to achieve this. And that is why countries, because this discussion we are having is not actually something for only Ghana. It's a global something. And therefore, that is why countries came together as part of the Rio Convention to develop what we call the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So when we talk about UNFCCC, we are looking at a body that is actually in place to help us address our situation. Please, moderator, I don't know. I'm not keeping records of the time. So in case my time is up, just draw my attention.
So yes, so you've actually followed the time. Okay. You have only 1 minute remaining, so you can summarize or wrap things up.
Okay. So in my summary, I'll like to focus on the UNFCCC, as I mentioned earlier on. And I'm sure there will be much time next time around to talk about it. So what I'm going to say is that in this discussion, as I mentioned earlier on, it's not just a problem for only Ghana. It's a general problem and has to be addressed on that general perspective. And therefore, we have the UNFCCC body there that is looking at how we can address. They have moved from one milestone to the other. And currently what is going on is what we call the Paris Agreement. And we are looking at how we can use the Paris Agreement to address this problem. And it's looking at it from the country level or the country perspective. So at first it started with the Kyoto Protocol and now leading to the Paris Agreement. The Kyoto Protocol was focusing on the developed countries, and now the Paris Agreement is looking at how countries can address the global problem. And the global problem is that there have been a link between the increase in temperature and the increase in the concentration of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So we have to put it in a balanced way so that we can meet our targets in order to reduce the atmospheric temperature to 2 degrees Celsius and well below to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And therefore, I will end here. And on another time, I will delve deeper into the discussions of the global policies, that is the UNFCCC processes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. We are much grateful for this education and this enlightenment on climate change and the sciences and everything. I'm sure you've taken some notes. So within the next 5 to 10 minutes, if one of you has a question, you can unmute or raise your hand so that we call you. Mr. Isaac is still on the line. He will attend to your question. Okay, so we have Edward. Edward, you can unmute and ask your question. Okay. Josephine, you have a question?
Yes, please. You see, the current temperature in Accra is very high. Then I watch a news say it's not about really climate change, but it's about solar flares. Like it happens every 11 years. Like the let me say the outbursts that there's solar like emits more radiation like onto the Earth's surface. So not necessarily like related to climate change, but it's related to solar flares. So I want to just ask him if is it really, really true?
Okay, thank you. Please, any other question? We are taking 3 questions. Once we have the 3 questions, we start. Isaac will answer everything at once. Any other question? Okay, please, your name is iPhone. Can you unmute and tell us your real name? It's good you join with your full name since you mentioned certificate so that we know who you are. Please rename yourself. But you can ask your question, please.
Yeah, can you hear me, please?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
My name is Chrissy, and my question is, looking at the way climate change is affecting different economies, in your introduction, you even said Ghana, relative to other developed nations, are not contributing that much in terms of the destruction of our climate or our environment. So mitigating climate change actions, how is the developed economies supporting nations like Ghana to address the climate issues?
Okay. Thank you very much. You didn't mention your name, or I didn't hear you right.
My name is Kwesi Fori.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Kwesi. So, Mr. Isaac has taken note of your question and he will address it. Comfort, can you unmute and ask your question? After Comfort and Mukali, that is all for now. So, Comfort, please unmute and ask your question.
Okay, so good evening. Thank you. From the presentation, I saw that termites also contribute to climate change. I'm actually an insect science student, so I want to know how they contribute to the climate change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Comfort. Then you take the last question from Mutakili. Mr. Kilo, please unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. And I hope I am loud and clear. So
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Mutakili, joined all the way from Keynote. So
okay.
I am an AI specialist and I have been following climate change for a while now. And I want to know do you people in the climate change forefront believe that AI can actually play a good role in fighting climate change or what? I'm much more interested in that.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for your question. So, Mr. Isaac, please, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, please. So we have 4 questions for you. And I don't know where you want to start from. Whether you want to start from the first one or the latest one.
I have all of them, and I must confess, these are very interesting and brilliant questions. Okay. And I will start with my favorite among them all, and that is the issue of termites. Okay. So I mentioned some gases that contribute to climate change. So any form or action that release these gases to the atmosphere is contributing to climate change. Because I mentioned that the more we have this concentration of gases in the atmosphere, the more they absorb energy from the sun and warms the globe. And if you look at the activities of the termites, their digestive system and their interactions leads to decomposition, and therefore it produces methane. And as I mentioned, methane is one of the greenhouse gases. That doesn't mean that anything that is releasing these gases has to be totally eliminated. For instance, as I mentioned, there are other natural factors. So the issue of termites is part of the natural factors. But then, are we actually using the termites in our own way to actually exacerbate their production? For instance, livestock, especially the ruminants, produce methane. So looking at their digestive system, as part of food has to ferment. And when there is fermentation taking place, then that means there's release of methane. through their belching or through their feces or their dunks. And if they are at the normal pace, I'm not sure that would have been the problem, but then we are rearing them in a larger scale for our consumption. And that is where the problem comes with. So with the natural sense, each activity has a way of producing some of this. And that is why we are talking about a net zero. So how can we approach some of our activities we do in a balanced way, whereby we can reduce their production? So yes, termites produce methane, but then it's a matter of, are we in our own way increasing the production of termites, or is at the normal or the natural level? And that is where we talk about the issue of the natural occurrence or the anthropogenic side. But yes, since their natural system or their digestive system produce methane, they are also contributors to these greenhouse gases we are talking about. And the issue of AI. AI can help in a lot of ways. So currently, myself and some few people, we are trying to come up with an AI technology that will help in climate negotiations. And I don't want to talk much about the global angle or the policy side. I would have gone much deeper into the nationally determined contributions, that is the NDCs, and how it came about. We have articles from the Paris Agreement that is looking at, Article 4 is looking at the nationally determined contribution, and it has to be country-owned, country-driven. But then, before then, the convention gives rooms for country to report on their emissions. And so, you report on what is currently happening, then you actually have to come up with a projection. So you have to create a scenario that if things on the usual, it's like this. When we meet, we get to 2030, how are things going to be like? So you have a business as usual scenario, then you project it to the future. Then you look at how you can reduce those emissions. So AI can help in creating some of these scenarios. And at the same time, when it comes to developing policy, you have an ex ante and ex post part of a policy. AI can actually help you to look at the ex ante assessment and the ex post assessment. When you look at, so when you talk in general, AI can help in a lot of ways when it comes to coming up with scenarios, coming up with projections, developing required policies in order to reduce greenhouse gases or adapt to the impact of climate change. We can use AI to model some of these things we are talking about. And on the issue of the solar flare, so we are saying climate change. We are not talking about weather change. Now, the effects of the change we are talking about should be something that has happened or that has been consistent for some period of years. Mostly we talk about 30 years. Others are in contention that 30 years is just a cycle, so it can be more than 30 years. And so, for instance, let me be a bit practical here. In our local dialect, we name the months of the year. So I'm an Akan, so let me use the tree as an example. We call January Opepon. Then we call December Openima. When we say Opepon, Opepon means the highest peak of Hamatan, Opepon. Then when we talk about December, Openima, that is the minimal or the lowest peak. April is Ophorisio. In the literal meaning is what? Ophorisio, that is the time it calls for water. Now, if you look at the way we named the months of the year in our local dialect, I don't know your background, but maybe you can just refer to your local dialect. You can see that the months of the year were named based on the particular weather condition. And I'm not sure you can follow that trend with what is happening now. For instance, we are in March and you don't even know whether we are still in the Harmattan period or the Harmattan period is gone or whatever it is. And that is what we are talking about. The normal pattern of the atmospheric condition for on how we know is no more following. We were expecting December to show some form of Harmattan, then January it peaks. Then when we enter February, we were expecting the first rains so that the Harmattan will cease. but then it's not happening that way. And that is what we are talking about. We are not just talking about just a particular time and what is happening. But what I was referring to was, if you look at, I was just making a case of increasing temperature and what can cause when there is a temperature increase. So for instance, even if you have your fridge and you let it open just for a night, by the time you wake up in the morning, you will see that it is flooded with water. It is flooded with water. And where did the water came from? It's because there have been an introduction of another form of temperature in there, and that is what is causing the water. So I was just making a reference to wait. So yes, it's debatable that it can be climate change or not, but the ultimate discussion here is that the normal pattern, what we used to experience, what farmers used to use in predicting the weather patterns in growing their crops, are no more like that. And that is what we are referring to as climate change. I don't know whether my explanation is clear.
Yeah,
and the last one on developed countries supporting developing countries like Ghana. So when you go to the global fund or the global discussion, it has always been a two-way affair. We talk about Annex 1 parties and non-Annex 1 parties. When we talk about the Annex 1 parties, we are looking at the developed countries, and the non-Annex 1 parties are the developing countries. So the discussion began when the issue was that the developed countries during the pre-industrial era caused the issue of climate change because they were the ones doing most of these things, inventing aeroplanes, cars, and all those things. They started these emissions, and that has brought us to where we are. And so the discussion was they have to take the lead in addressing the problem. Then the developing countries will follow. And that came to the development of the Kyoto Protocol. So the Kyoto Protocol was looking at the developed countries reducing their emissions at that level, and the developing countries supporting them in reducing the emissions. And so with the Kyoto Protocol, it came with something like the CDM, and the CDM was looking at the developing countries doing some mitigation interventions and selling the emission reductions for the developed countries to meet their emission targets. And so that was how the discussion was. But then it has revolved to the point that every country or every party is also one way or the other causing emissions, and therefore they have to start addressing the emissions at their level too. And so we call something common but differentiated principles and respective capabilities. This means that we are trying to solve a common problem with differentiated responsibilities and different capabilities. And when we talk about it, what we're trying to say is that the climate change problem is affecting everybody, but then everybody has a way of how we are contributing to this climate change. And therefore, looking at your level of emission, reduce that level at your level or at a point where you produce. So for instance, if you are producing about 1 metric ton of this CO2 equivalent emissions, you cannot do or reduce emissions of 4 metric tons. You can't reduce 4 metric tons. You can only do within that 1 metric ton. So that is what we call the common but differentiated principles and respective capabilities. So if I'm to go through the articles in the Paris Agreement, I would say there are financial mechanisms in place that is helping the developing countries to meet their targets or to actually reduce their emissions. But then the developed countries are supporting their bids, but the developing countries are saying it is not enough. Therefore, they have to do more in order to help us address these targets. If I decide to go into details about the developed countries and the developing countries, it will take a longer time. So maybe I can take my contact and one-on-one can address it.
Right. Okay, sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. And I'm sure our questions are answered. Okay. So
I can see
that's
Muta. I can see Mutakilu's hand up
Oh,
since.
yeah, he didn't lower it.
Oh,
Mutaki,
okay.
can you please lower it so that you know you don't have any question? If you can hear me. Okay. Okay. Mr. Isaac, thank you very much for the understanding, the insight and knowledge you've given us this evening. We appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay. So our next speaker is Mrs. Anita Ofori from Women in Sustainability Africa. I'm sure they organize a lot of programs, but their focus is much with women. So she's going to blend the issue of women and also add a little bit of sustainability. So, Mrs. Anita, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Barrister.
Okay, so I don't know if I've made it the co-host. Let me make you co-host so that you can share your screen if you want to share anything. So you have 20 minutes presentation, and after your 20 minutes, we will have 10 minutes questions and answer session. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much once again, and a good evening to everyone here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm trying to share my screen. Please, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes,
We
please.
can see.
Yes, please.
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, and a very good evening to you all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be a speaker to today's climate change workshop under the theme Understanding Climate Change and Impact in Ghana, a collective action for a sustainable development. As Barrister did mention, my name is Anita Ofori. I'm the co-founder for Women for Sustainability Africa. And today, my major focus area will be on adopting sustainable practices in our schools and communities for a better future. So what we'll be looking at is what sustainability is all about, what is environmental sustainability, because that will be our key area, human activities that are destroying our environment, why schools and the communities are key players in environmental sustainability, how to adapt sustainable practices in our schools and communities. Then there'll be a conclusion. I'm sure everyone gets to hear sustainability, and so let me just ask a question. So let's say if your grandfather left a plot of land for you, has that plot of land increased over the years? If you look at the water body, maybe in your community, has it increased? Has the beach increased? So the whole aim of sustainability is that our natural resources is still the same, but our population keeps increasing, just like our first presenter did mention. Okay, so when we look at one definition that is very simple and very easy to understand, is from the United Nations Brundtland Commission. They defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So, in simple words, sustainability is all about making you think like a generational thinker. Okay. And under sustainability, we have 4 pillars in sustainability. We have the human sustainability, social sustainability, economic sustainability, and the environmental sustainability. Today, we'll be focusing on the environmental sustainability. Okay. So with environmental sustainability, it's all about managing our natural resources, okay, for us to be able to fulfill our current need without compromising on the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. Because you can just imagine, population keeps increasing. So even though we have the natural resources to ourselves now, we need to be very mindful that in some years to come, your children's children are also going to live on the same earth. So we just need to think about them as well. So according to the World Health Organization, human beings is closely linked to the environment, to the health of the environment. Okay, so around the world, about 24% of death can be traced back to avoidable environmental factors, because we need to breathe in clean air, we need fresh water to drink, and I mean our living place needs to be very habitable. So we are going to look at some of the activities that you and I are doing that is destroying the environment. Okay, so deforestation, we all know what deforestation is all about. We have the industrialization and air pollution. And let me speak a little bit on the air pollution. A lot of people die due to the air pollution. Okay, and from data provided by the World Health Organization, it is estimated that about 7 million deaths occur in the world. And in Ghana alone, we have about 28,000 Ghanaians who die annually prematurely due to air pollution. So this is a very area that needs we need to focus, because you may just be there and you get sick and really do not know what happened to you. It's maybe the air in your area is polluted, you do not know about it, and it actually affects your health. We look at the water pollution, and even with this water pollution, just look at illegal mining in our communities. Our water bodies are so polluted, okay, due to these galamsey activities and all of that. And there's even a research that was conducted that these waters that are polluted in such communities, the people living in there use these waters to cook, and they drink these waters as well. What do you think will happen to you? Obviously, it's going to affect your health. And if this goes to the far extent that pregnant women drink these contaminated water right here in Ghana, use these contaminated water to cook, and this affects their babies. So when they are born with deformities, and you spend so much money and energy trying to, treat a child with deformities, and it can be really, really stressful. We want to look at overfishing and marine ecosystem depletion. There's waste generation too in Ghana, which is also another headache in a part of our world, because almost everywhere you pass, so much garbage everywhere. And even one of the main headache is the plastic waste. Plastic waste is just so much that it's estimated that about 250,000 metric tons of these plastic waste are not disposed of properly. So they end up in our gutters, in our water bodies, in our environment, almost everywhere, on landfills, and even some end up in the oceans. So in the oceans, just imagine that's where the fishermen goes to fish and all of that. And these fishes also feed on these plastic waste. And we're also feeding on these fishes. So you can just imagine what's happening to our health. We end up getting sick, and sometimes we really do not even know what happened to us. It's because we've been doing this over a long time. And there's a research that says that if we are not careful, by the World Bank in 2020, they said that we are not careful, by 2050, our ocean will be full of plastic. So when the fishermen goes, they'll be rather harvesting, fishing out plastics, which it's a very key area we need to look at. So for Women for Sustainability, currently we're embarking on a plastic segregation program in schools to help recycle some of these plastic waste, because at the end of the day, just about 9.5% plastic waste are just recycled. So there's so much work to be done around that side. We look at urbanization, you look at opification, where we are just trying to pollute our water, fossil fuel consumption in the greenhouse gas emission that Isaac has already spoken extensively about. So these are some of the images. You can see right here River Pra before. Look at how clean the water is. Water do not have colors, but when you look at this, it looks blue, very clean. And look at after, due to illegal mining, look at how the water is looking at. And right here, you can see so much garbage. You can see so much garbage in there. There's no segregation. Food waste, plastic waste, paper waste, everything. You see, even by our seashore, look at some of the plastic wastes. All these plastics were in the river, okay, and it's now the shore. And there's an example of air pollution right there. There's an example of Ebola burning some refuge. You can see another picture that shows how we do not dispose our waste properly. So why are schools key players in ensuring sustainable environments? So the role of our schools empower future generations. Okay, so they foster critical thinking and innovation to face challenges. And as students, we are built, to have a very solid foundation. And the role of education is shaping the future, our future, for us to be able to take up leadership positions and to be able to drive the country forward. And when you look at the educational institution in Ghana, this is coming from the Ghana Education Service, the data that was picked. From kindergarten to junior high school, we have over 70,000 schools, the 70,793. Looking at the senior high school institution, we have 721. Tertiary institution, we have 370. So you can just do this calculation and let's say it's just about 71,000 of schools, and each student has to drink 2 sachets of water a day. You can just imagine, for an example, let's not use huge numbers. Let's say all these institutions have just about 100 students in there. When you do the multiplication, you realize that we're having over 280 million sachets of water waste, like daily. So you can just imagine, the waste that we are producing on a daily basis. So how can we adapt sustainable practices in our school? One, we need to look at our environmental education. We need to integrate sustainability in our curriculum. Okay, so currently I know that with the support of the United Nations and other stakeholders, we've been able to incorporate climate change into the new primary school curriculum. Okay, so from basic 1 to basic 6. But I also remember when I was in University of Professional Studies level 200, I think 12 years ago, there was this course, environmental management, and it was compulsory for everyone, even though we're all business students. It was compulsory for everyone to actually take that course. So I think if we implement this course across discipline, not only focusing for, let's say, climate change students or people just doing sciences, it will go a long way to impact us. Because if I quite remember, right after we studied that course, I went back to my hostel and I took papers and I started waste segregation. So you can't be seeing me busy trying to segregate the waste, putting notices everywhere. And I think that was what tuned my mind to this, and having started like some initiatives like the Women for Sustainability, where we encourage and we advocate for these actions. Also, we want to look at creating school gardens and outdoor learning spaces. Okay, so creating school gardens most of you will testify the fact that if you go to schools outside Accra, you're looking at places like, let's say, some parts of Eastern region, Kumasi, or let's say Tamale, the Northern region. They try to, have these gardens in their schools, okay, which is good. And from a story that a colleague told me about, when they were in school, they could plant, food crops, and when it's due for harvest, they even sell it to the community members, and the school is able to make some money out of it. And I think it's a very nice initiative. But currently, when you look at schools in Accra, because of space, everyone is trying to, manage spaces, and they do not even have school gardens. All right, everywhere is cemented, and there's no space for that. So you can just imagine, even when it rains, there's no soil available to even absorb the rains. And it's something that we want to look at, because you want to have practical education for students who are studying, agricultural or any other thing. It even sparks interest and makes, our minds very creative. We also want to educate students and staff about the importance of conserving energy. Okay, because sometimes if maybe as university students, you may think you're not paying for your bills, so you do not really, think about it. You charge your phone and you leave the switches off. You are going for lectures, we leave the fans on. We just want to be a bit mindful of all of that to be able to conserve this energy, and look at how we can reduce waste reduction and recycling. So as I did mention, like an initiative like what we've started, where we want to implement, want to segregate waste to be able to encourage more recycling. I think this has to be done in every school, so that we can be able to recycle most of these plastic waste. Also, community engagement. We need to do community engagement, so partners with local businesses, organizations, and government agencies to support sustainable initiatives such as tree planting. And now it's one of the most activities that I see a lot of organizations doing and students doing, and we equally do that as well, which is a good initiative. Because when Isaac was doing his presentation, he did mention that, when you destroy some of these natural resources, it takes time for us to be able to replace them. So just imagine you go and cut down a tree that was planted like 20 years ago, and you plant one. You should also know that before that seedling will grow, it will take like 20 years. Okay, so we just need to be very mindful about our actions. And also would encourage government and investors, okay, to also invest in eco-friendly infrastructure. So in your infrastructure, you want to look at how you can cut down on or improve energy efficiency, effective waste management system. We want to have a green space and water conservation. And even now, there are taps where if you put your hands, this is a sensitive tap. It's when you put your hands beneath it, that's when the tap flows. But when it's not, when your hands is not there, the water will not flow. You can all attest to it. I remember when I was in university, some of my mates would just go to the bathroom and the taps are not flowing. So they open the tap and that is it. They forget to turn it off. So by the time you come back from lectures, sometimes your room is even flooded. Okay, and all these are waste of resources that can actually be prevented. Why do we need to adapt sustainable practices in our communities as well? So in our communities, sustainable development is not just a global responsibility, but it's a collective effort. Okay, even with our schools, who make the school? It's you and I. You're a student somewhere, and maybe a student somewhere. Without you and I or individuals, there's no school. Who forms a community? You and I do form a community. Without us, we cannot build a community. Okay, so we just need to be mindful and equally know that this is a journey to a sustainable lifestyle. And local communities really do play a vital role in driving sustainable development initiative. Okay, so we to help us learn how to, manage our natural resources, our economic well-being, and all. So, what are some of the ways that we can actually adapt sustainable practices. So accepting environmental responsibility, we want to look at how resource conservation is, and conservation is just preventing of wasteful use of resources. Okay, so you just want to prevent that before it becomes waste. Also, look at how we can waste reduction, we can reduce our waste reduction. And even sometimes you'd realize that even in your neighborhoods there are taps, pipes, the pipes of this, they leak and nobody seems to care about it. Maybe the person who even caused that damage doesn't even know, doesn't even care. Maybe he was driving and he drove over a pipe and the water splays everywhere and nobody really cares about it. We are all wasting resources. These cause erosions in our area, floods the whole place, and it's not really the best. Okay, and want to look at sustainable transportation in our part of the world. I'm not saying it's difficult. I believe a time will come where it will be very easy to assess some of these, because even when we are encouraged to even pick public transportation, some do not even are unable to get to certain areas due to the bad nature of the road. Okay, and it becomes difficult. Maybe the place is hilly, you're unable to go. So you would want to also say train, but in this part of our country, it's not easy to. I haven't seen a train in I don't even want to say years. I don't remember the last time I sat on a train. Okay, so I have a friend who lives in the UK, and he told me that, oh, he sold his car. I was like, oh, why? But why did you sell your car? And yet a lot of people want to buy a car, and you have a car and you're selling it. And he was like, oh, for where he lives, it's so easy for him to get transportation, a train pass in his area. He can easily get a cab. There's a bus from his home to his office. So there's no need actually having a car, because you even actually have to pay for a parking space, because so their system is put in such a way that you're actually encouraged to rather use more of these sustainable transportation system that has been built. But here in Africa, or Ghana to be precise, I think we are not there yet. But I believe that collectively, you and I can be able to make a better Ghana for us to be able to enjoy some of these resources, and also look at how we can reduce plastic usage, okay, and change of lifestyle. So there's something I always call sustainable lifestyle. Sustainable lifestyle. What's sustainable lifestyle? When you're going to buy something, why don't you have your reusable bag, like the tote bags? Why don't you use that so that you can always use it instead of going to the shop and always picking, they package your items for you in a plastic plastic bag. But when you have your reusable bag, like the tote bags, you are able to reuse them. And one of my community members does these bags, Mary Lancelot. You may want to also Google her and see what she has, and purchase a bag or so. It helps, it improves in these kind of, or improving our sustainability lifestyle. Okay, and we want to look at our community engagement, so where local food system is really encouraged. We need to support our local farmers and do community gardens to improve healthy living, because when you plant your own crop, I'm telling you that it's to me, I always say it's a blessing, because your life health is very important. I remember 2 years ago when I decided to start planting food. I can say for a fact that for a whole year I had not purchased tomatoes, and it wasn't only tomatoes I was growing. I was growing tomatoes, pepper, okra. Yeah, I think these were the main crops I grew. And for a very long time, I didn't have to buy any of these. Even cassava, so I planted it. And there are ways where you can even preserve these. Okay, you cook them, you blend them, you store them in portions into your refrigerator. And all these improve, and it helps us build a resilient food system, because we also know that these parts of the world, we are faced with food insecurity issues. Okay, so look at that. And we have education and awareness. So, like this program that we are doing currently is to educate everyone, even myself. I'm learning. everyone on the platform is an opportunity to learn. So as we also learn, we also go out there into our communities to create these awareness, okay, to people that have not had the opportunity maybe to join the call or other, and some of our community members, it's not everyone that is really educated. So we can even go back to be able to preach some of these in our own local dialect for them to really understand what sustainability is all about, what climate change is all about. Also want to look at social equity and inclusion. Social equity and inclusion. So, for Women for Sustainability, for instance, we promote more on gender because we want to create a balanced leadership. We want to look at diversity, okay, how to help and contribute to make a better decision, okay, because we even believe that climate change doesn't affect everyone equally, either male or female. Climate change doesn't affect equally. Okay, so to ensure that sustainability initiatives addresses the need of all community members and fostering social equity and inclusion for everyone to be able to benefit from sustainable future. Okay, so we also want to also look at the embarking on policies and collaboration actions, like advocate for sustainable policies. I think Isaac did mention about some of these policies and collaboration. Collaboration is another key area to look at, because sometimes you may not have the resources, but somebody may have the idea. You can come together to be able to do so much together, because you can't even do alone. But when you come together, you're able to address unique needs and address the community's challenge as well. So for me, what I say is that adopting sustainable practices is an ongoing journey. Okay, so by starting small, you celebrate the little successes that you've has been achieved. Also, it takes you and I to make that change. And I know change is difficult. There are some lifestyles that we've practiced over and over for a very long time. I'm sure most of you here, like, we go and buy cocoa early in the morning, and it's poured in a plastic, it's poured in a rubber. You buy say it's put in a rubber. At the end of the day, all this food is put in another rubber. So you can just imagine. But if we can have a flax we go out with, we can have something sustainable. You put and your reusable bags, we can be able to make a difference. So to be able to live or drive sustainability, it takes you and I to make that difference. So thank you very much, and I'll be here to take your questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Adita, for such a presentation. I'm sure most of us are educated and we've learned something new. So the floor is open for questions. If you have any question, please raise your hand and let's hear you. Okay, Nicholas. Nicholas, you have a question?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Speaker, for the knowledge you've impacted with us. Our question is quite brief about your perception about university or college students resorting to using bicycles as against, boarding of taxis and other shuttles or mode of transportation.
Okay, so I think I'm not clear with your question. Can you come clear?
Oh, okay. So my question is her take on how does, let's say, when university students resort to using bicycles on campus as against boarding of taxis and shuttles or other form of transportation would help in our bid for the sustainability she talked about.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. Please, any other question? I'm sure Mrs. Anita is taking note of the questions. Once we take three, let's say 3 questions. Yeah, 3 questions. She'll answer all of them at once. Please, any other question? Okay, Mrs. Anita, you can go ahead and answer her question as we wait for other people to join or ask questions. Hello.
Hello. Okay, so thank you very much for the question. Yes, using bicycle is very good because at the end of the day, it's even an exercise for yourself. Promoting it is good, but sometimes it's not like I do not promote it. I do promote it, but in a part of our country. There's so much indiscipline on our roads. Okay, so if you are very sure that your area where you think you are is good, or maybe there are not too much vehicles like the university campus, yes, I would encourage you to use bicycles. But if you think that your road network is not good, the roads are bad, and there's sort of indiscipline on the road, then I will not advise you to use a bicycle, because your life comes first, and life is precious. When you go to Europe, you go to the America, they use bicycles. A friend of mine works in the parliament in UK, and he uses bicycle to work. I mean, so it's really encouraged, but you would want to look at your environment, your area, to be able
Okay,
to take that decision.
okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. So we have people who are also watching us from YouTube and then Facebook. So if you have your friends who are watching us from YouTube or Facebook, they can also put their questions out there. I'll read them here. So so far you don't have any question over there. Okay. Kwabena, you have a question?
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Please unmute and
Good evening, everyone.
good evening.
My question is very simple. So, what's the way forward, especially regarding the water, the natural environment? Example, the water where they do the gold mining. How can we make it clean so it helps everyone? Thank you.
Okay. I think there was another hand up so that she answers both. Okay. Mrs. Anita, please, you can go ahead and answer this question. He wants to know the way forward. Is it the galamsey? Is it that we have to ban mining? Or what is the way forward?
Okay, so the thing is, our voices need to be heard. We still need to make our voices heard, talk about it. We continue to push education and awareness so that policymakers can put in stringent measures for this to stop. Because the illegal mining, once it doesn't stop and it continues, water bodies will continue to be polluted. Thank you.
Okay. Samuel, your hand was up.
Okay, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
The usage of bike phone.
Sammy, we can't hear you. Can you raise your voice?
Hello. Okay, mine was concerning the usage of bicycle and something.
Okay.
So, if because of the road network and the indiscipline, we cannot go by. So it could be a law enforcement. Just recently, the government working the policy of the carbon emissions, the tax on carbon emissions. I think this is going to help reduce the amount of members into the city. So if there could be a law enforcement, or maybe some people that there will not be status anymore. So if they are not status, they will not going with the bike, so then you have to. And I think these policies can also help to get somewhere, because if we only do the protecting the education, there are some people who definitely spend their time out for these things and they not get.
Okay. So I think his own was a contribution. Okay, thank you very much, Samuel. Samuel was saying that there should be regulations on campus that enforce that everyone drives bicycle. I mean, even if you have a Range Rover, you have the option to either ride a bicycle or walk. Okay. Nunu Kingsley, you have a question? Yeah, please unmute and ask your question. Hello, Kingsley. Okay, so Kingsley is not talking. I have one question from YouTube. This is it I want to ask you. So somebody is asking, can we get a way to ban the use of plastic bags and option for paper bags, just like Singapore? Hello. Hello, Mrs. Anita, are you?
Yes, barrister.
Yes, somebody is asking on YouTube that can we get a way to ban the use of plastic bags and option and then option out for paper bags, just like Singapore. Somebody is also asking a question on YouTube.
Yes, yes, it's very, very possible for the use of especially single use plastics to be banned. It's all based on policies. Okay. It's all based on policies and advocacies are a way to go. We once we keep advocating, we keep advocating. I mean, consistency bring a change. So that's what we have to pursue, and that's what we have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please, last question. Then we move on to the last speaker. Please, any question? Nunu, your hand is still up. Hello, Nunu, can you hear me? Okay, sure. I think that is it for now. So thank you very much, Mrs. Anita, for your presentation on sustainability. Well, yesterday was International Women's Day, so I want you to leave a short message for the ladies here.
All right, thank you so much. So yesterday, one of the activities we did as Women for Sustainability was to go to Accra Wesley Girls to celebrate the day with them. And one of the last things I said was that just see life as a movie and be the main character of the movie. Once you're the main character of the movie, you become a star. So just go all out, do your best, do what is right, and just know that we can do it, even though as women. When you look at my very first presentation, my very first slide, I wrote that I'm a mother, I'm a banker, I'm a gender advocate, I'm a mentor as well, a youth advert. I promote sustainability. So you can just imagine there are limitations, natural limitations, but we can still overcome it. And always know that the world is ruled by tired people. So no matter how tired you are, never give up on your dreams. Keep pushing and you get there. You can want to follow us on our social media handles. On LinkedIn, it's Women for Sustainability Africa. If you want to join the community as well, I think when you get in touch with Barrister, he'll share my contact with you. I'll add you to our community where we educate women as well, and we help these people, young ones, tell their stories, their sustainability stories, which is very important because your voice needs to be heard. And never be quiet when you find yourself in a room with a lot of people and you have a question to ask. Be bold as a woman, be bold as a female, and ask your questions. Anything you do, just be bold and have that confidence. Okay, we are all human beings and we are all the same. No one has the power over you. Just be respectful, know your limits, know what you want to do. And I can tell you that once you're able to practice all of these, you go very far. So thank you very much for having us on all our social media, Facebook, on Instagram, on X, we're there, on LinkedIn, even on TikTok as well. You find us Women for Sustainability Africa. So thank you all very much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Anita. So I'll leave my personal contacts in the chat box or the email that we sent you once you request for anything, we are going to revert. If you want to get in touch with Mrs. Anita, I will share her contact details with you, including her email and then personal contacts. Yes. So we're moving on to our last session. By 8, we will close. Okay. We are going by our time. Since you're learning sustainability, you need to learn how to be sustainable within time frame. So we are going to our last speaker. Our last speaker comes from CDKN. Okay. Yes. So we have CDKN. I'm sure they will talk about themselves a little before they go ahead to present what they have for us. So, Mrs. Valerie, are you there?
Hi,
Yes. Good evening and welcome to this workshop. So we want to hear from you. We want to know some opportunities that we as young people can grab in the field of climate change. Okay. Yes. So please, in the next 20 minutes, we want you to enlighten us on some of these things. I know you are repping from CDKN. And CDKN is a big organization, so we want to hear from you. The floor is all yours. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'll just to say hello, and then I'll share my screen and then turn off my video for a while. So my name is Valerie Notako. I'm the country program coordinator for the CDKN program in Ghana. CDKN is an abbreviation for the Climate and Development Knowledge Network. And we are an organization that is focused on ensuring and facilitating knowledge brokering, knowledge sharing, and making sure that knowledge is, or climate literacy or knowledge is disseminated in a manner that is understood by different people across different boards. And so we employ variety of tools, communication tools, innovative tools, media, tech, AI, to make sure that what climate change is, what the climatic risk impacts are, what the solutions can be, or what we can do to adapt are communicated in a manner that anyone at any point in time can understand and be able to take action. And so that's what we've been doing. The CDKN runs two major streams that are now as part of our country strategy. We, on the national front, we work with young people, amazing young people who have innovative ideas to share knowledge on climate change and also become the change that we always speak of. And then on the subnational level, we work in the Upper West region of Ghana for now. Upper West region because it's one of the most vulnerable communities because of the high climate change vulnerability index per our biennial update reports, which is the report that the states gives to the United Nations Framework on the Convention of Climate Change to yes, the report that they give to the UNFCCC for short, for the country. And yeah, our work there involves working with women, working with stakeholders such as the Department of Agric and then communities. So these are the things that we typically do there. I'll now move on to share my screen and yeah. Okay. A minute. Okay, so just to talk about this, we are looking at the opportunities that students in this climate change and sustainability space can have access to. So by way of that, I introduce what we do at CDKN, and then I'll delve straight into the crux of the matter. So one of the things that we look at is understanding that when it comes to sustainability and then climate change, there's a vast opportunity for entry and then career progression within the space. It's not limited to one thing. So it's not limited to waste management. It's not limited to plastic recycling or the 4 or 3 hours. It's not limited to to just policy or project implementation. There's a vast array of things that you can do under within the climate change space, either as a student or as a young person. And it's important to know that young people are very essential in tackling the issues of sustainability because we bring fresh perspectives to things. We have innovative ideas, and we also have a passion for positive change. One thing you realize across board is that change has come from young people. Even we celebrated our Independence Day recently, and a major way that change came into this country was because a young person, Kwame Nkrumah, decided that we can have self-governance now. And so I want us to look at ourselves as people who can, and not people who are just students or just young people and we are just greenhorns. And we have to also understand that there's a missing link or a missed mark when we are looking for career opportunities because we often do not consider climate change as a cross-cutting issue. So when you look at the sphere of climate change, there's the aspect of incorporating technology. There's the aspect of looking at it from an agric perspective. There's the aspect of looking at it from a business perspective. There's a way to look at it from a communication and media perspective. And so do not limit yourself to just one space that, oh, okay, so if I'm into climate change, the top 3 places I can work at are the UN agencies, an NGO, and then maybe the EPA or MESI. There's so many places that you can find yourself in that you can blossom in as a way of fledgling your career. Now, when you look at the opportunities, we can consider, and I'll talk on these 4 major things and add one, which I didn't add to this earlier, which is the entrepreneurship. So when you are considering career options within the climate space, programs and technical work are not the only opportunities you limit yourself to. Now, I say this with a pinch of salt. It's very important that you understand what climate science is. You understand it from the basis. So I was really excited when Isaac shared on the science aspect to it, and then the scientific foundations of it. Because when you understand what you are doing from a scientific and technical perspective, then you can translate these perspectives into practical things which you can use as a career pathway. So you can look at it from the perspective of art. Now, with CDK, and one of the major people that we work with is Ochame Kwame. And you realize that he uses his leverage as an artist to communicate how you can ensure sustainability within your own space, whether as a young person, as an old person, through different media. Art is a great pathway for a career progression or career entry. Recently, we had a conversation with a young man. He uses sculpture to communicate the climatic risks and impacts. And he's had exhibitions across Ghana and across the world. And he's doing quite amazing stuff. And this is something that 5-10 years ago, you may easily not look at, because who would think about marine art or sculpture in this perspective with climate action? And I was sharing earlier this afternoon with one of my friends that when I entered into the climate change space, I come from a geography background. With time, many people I had met were always speaking about climate action from the perspective of running projects, writing policies, writing project proposals. And I never had the idea that, oh, we could actually look at it from a perspective of how do we leverage something like art to communicate climate change so that people are aware about what's going on, and then they can take action. Because art evokes emotion. You can go to a gallery show and you're like, this is such a deep piece and it communicates so much. And I think this is something I want to act on. That's why for years, different art forms have been auctioned at very amazing prices, has caused change, has caused revolutions, have informed people, art is such an amazing way of building a career. Building a career, and then you can look at it from a perspective of comms. Excuse me. So we can look at it from a perspective of communication as well. How knowledge is disseminated is very important. When knowledge is being disseminated to a child between the ages of 8 to 10 or 8 to 15, the language that is used will differ from communicating with someone from age 16 to 18, and from 18 to 35, and from 35 upwards. These vary. And so we can look at building a niche or a career pathway around climate communication in either in general or specific. You can look at how can I, with the understanding I have as a student now who is interested in climate change, or as a young person who is interested in climate change, how can I break down this knowledge for people of different age groups so that they can understand what has been going on for a long time? So you had a lot of technicalities when both Isaac and Anita were speaking. And from the new collective quantifiable goal, common but differentiated responsibilities, NDC. So you had all of these things, but how can you break these down into a language that can be understood by so many people? Is there a way that you can look at building a career on? Is a way you can look at to build a career on how you can communicate climate change. Is a solid way of building career. And then you can look at it from the aspect of science. One woman that I am very interested in following her work is Professor Kluche, Professor Nana Makluche. She's in the University of Ghana, and she's the IPCC chair for the working group. And she has such vast knowledge on the climate science, on the physics of it, the geography of it. Like, she has extensive knowledge about it. And it's very important to understand that if it is something that you are interested in, it's also a career pathway. You can understand from atmospheric science, you can understand from a perspective of a geographer, you can understand from a perspective of a physicist, from engineering, chemical, yes, you can understand from a variety of perspectives. And climate science as a career pathway can boost, climate science can be looked at as a career pathway because it's important that people understand the foundations of what climate change is and then the scientific impacts of it. Now, we can look at it from the perspective of project management as well. Now, when you're a project manager, there are different things that are under a threshold, from managing people, managing projects, managing finances. So you can break them down into these tiny bits, and then you can look at building a career from there. I know that there are project management professional certifications that you can get, and from online, there are so many online resources and portals that you can consider and look at. And I'll share a link after the live, after my session, so that you can follow and then check it out. And the last thing that I did add was the entrepreneurship bit. Now, as young people, with your innovative ideas, you can create a business out of it, what we call a social enterprise. You can have a business that has a sustainability clause that actually is implemented to ensure that the goals of what we call the Paris Agreement, the goals of the country's contributions, that's the NDCs, the goals of SDG, the goals of sustainable development are being realized through your business venture. And there are so many businesses that you can look at. You can look at to model yourself after, or model a business after. And now, with the advent of technology and then AI tools, you can basically start a business from your home, and you would fledge it out and look at exploring opportunities around funding, grants to support your business whilst you grow it. CDKN offers a lot of opportunity when it comes to technical assistance to structure businesses, enable you develop them when you are an eco-friendly one. Recently, we had a call for ecopreneurs, which was in line with the Youth Sustain conference that happened last year. And we've shortlisted about 6 people who are going through incubations and will be assisted to enable them scale their businesses up to a good space or a good place where they can be the hallmark of ecopreneurship around the sustainability space. So these are things that you can look at with respect to career progression, early career options and opportunities. And one thing I would like to end with on this slide is that don't limit yourself to the traditional modes or means of career. Don't limit yourself to, and I want to just wake up and go to the office, I want to just work in somewhere, the world is expanding, and so should you. There are so many opportunities out there that, trust you me, if you open your mind to it, you realize that this country can't really contain your brains, and everyone is smart enough to start something. everyone is smart enough to do something. Everyone is smart enough to go towards this particular career. And I don't think it's rocket science that you can't as a young person. So the last thing I would share is on your career entry and then your progression. How do you carve a niche that speaks to your expertise as a young person? One of the things that you mostly hear people say is that, oh, I just did internship. I don't have that much of expertise when it comes to career. I can apply for this job, etc. Well, it shouldn't stop you from reaching higher heights, really. Think outside the box. Like I said earlier, don't limit yourself to a particular niche. We have some interns in our office, and one of them is interested in aerospace engineering, but this person is also interested in sustainability and the climate space. And you can see how much effort that this person is putting in to understand artificial intelligence, tech tools, and then different no-code tools to enable the person learn beyond the traditional, what is climate change, what is climate science, what's this, what's that. It's a lot of thinking outside the box. And when you think outside the box, that's when you can allow your creative juice to flow and even explore other career options. And then the other thing that's greatly has helped myself and many other people that I've talked with over time is have a mentor. Have a mentor in the sense that have someone that you want to, quote unquote, and I say this with all positivity, that you want to mirror. Someone that you think that this is something that I think I can also do and I should try it out. Have a mentor and assess the person's interest, and then mirror it to groom yourself. There are some things that you can take. There are some things that you take note of, realize that, oh, this one is not my thing, so I take it out. But assess your mentor's interest. Get in touch with people that you think that this is a field I want to go into, and then go for it. And one of the things that you should also learn is building your people skills, communication skills. Learn how to introduce yourself and say that my name is Valerie and I am in University of Ghana. I'm interested in becoming an expert at climate finance, and I want you to be a mentor to me. The worst the person will say is that no. But what can happen is that the person may easily be impressed with your nerve and then help you out. And I'll tell a story here. One of the jobs I got when I was doing my graduate school was because of that. We had finished a seminar under one of our courses, and I met this man, and I felt that this was someone that my interest aligned with. And so I walked up to the person, I introduced myself, and I told the person that I want to intern with your organization. When will be a convenient time to call you? And when can I send my CV? I don't think I even followed up that much, but I sent at least weekly reminders. And I got to intern with this person and then work with this person before I moved on to my next jobs and then after. So it's very important to know how to build personal confidence and then say that this is what I want, and then you go for it. It's not easy, but I mean, coming from me, it can be done. And then the last one is that you can develop your passion into entrepreneurship, which is, I spoke a lot about it in the slide before this. When you have an idea, about 10 or 15 other people may be having the same idea. But the funny thing is that very few people act on what their innovative idea is. I have started businesses multiple times. And one thing I would say is that it's okay to start over, and it's okay to put a hold on it and start another thing. And then it's okay to also give yourself time, say 3 years or 4 years, if it's something that you really want to do. And then you flesh it out. And yeah, maybe give yourself 3 years if business or entrepreneurship is something you really want to do. And there are lots of incubation programs that you can go into. I'll drop our link in the chat, and then you can have access to different opportunities that are with respect to entrepreneurship, incubations, and stuff. And I'll end with this, that we have an upcoming seminar on on translating research into action. It's a webinar to enable students and young people to translate what they've been hearing or what they've been learning as researchers or early researchers into stories, blogs, news articles that can be digested by a lot of people. And so I really look forward to us all joining. I'm sharing the link immediately. And so this is our Instagram page. We also have a call for podcasts. So when you go to when you go to the link tree, which I'm dropping now, you can just apply there. A minute. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think I'm done with the presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I'm just dropping the links and then I'll be out. Bye.
Okay, so I'm sure they'll have some questions for you. Thank you very much, Valerie. So, students and
Sure.
people here, please, do you have any question for Valerie? No question for Valerie. Okay, let me check YouTube if there's any question over there for you. Okay, I think I have a question for you. Please, can you hear me? I have a question
Yes,
for you. Okay, you said there are countries that are dominating and utilizing nuclear energy for its energy production instead of relying on fossil fuel, like China. I think she was actually talking about, I'm sure this question was focused on Mrs. Anita. But let me ask you, since you are all into the same field, I'm sure you'll be able to answer. So you say that, I have a question. Please, there are countries that are utilizing nuclear atomic energy for its energy production instead of relying on fossil fuel, just like China. Can you touch on it, or do you have any idea on it for us?
Sorry, come again.
There are countries that are utilizing nuclear atomic energy for its energy production. So I'm sure he's talking about probably renewable energies or something instead of relying on fossil fuel, just like China. So if you want us to know if there are countries or there are instances where we can forgo the fossil fuel and then we can utilize the renewable energies. I'm sure that this question was targeted at Mrs. Anita. Yes. But if you have the capacity, you can answer it.
Okay. Well, just touch a little bit on that. But when it comes to energy and sustainability, one of the things that you have to understand is that a lot of people rely on energy within a country as part of their development. And so you cannot just switch from one source of energy or one type of energy into another type of energy, okay? So we have something called just transition, which ensures that as you are moving from one energy form to another, as you're exploring moving from one energy source or type to another, you ensure that different people across different developmental sectors or frames are also protected. So you don't just do a quick switch in and out of it, okay? So countries that are currently exploring renewable energy options have been doing the hard work of gradually transitioning instead of a sharp transition over time. So that's one. Okay. And then two, yes, relying on renewable energy fully is a possibility. It doesn't mean that the whole world will move towards it now. You should look at different country perspectives. You should look at regional differences. Africa is a different geographic region and developmental region from Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world. So definitely our transition rates will differ. So yes, it's not something that can be done, but then it is something that should be gradual and is encouraged to be gradual. I hope that answers the person's question.
Okay, sure. I personally have a question too. So let's say I have my personal, if I have a career, I'm a medical doctor. I'm sure we have some people who are actually advancing what they're doing. We have some people who are psychologists here. They join this meeting. Is there any medium where I can add climate change or sustainability as a different field or as an attached field to what I'm doing earlier? And if I want to add, what are some key areas I can focus on in addition to what I know already?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I even continue, I have our team lead on the call, Dr. Ansa, and I just want to say hi to him and let you know that we are both here. Yes, and
Okay, Dr. Ansa, you're welcome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So yes, so to your question, like I earlier mentioned during my presentation, climate change and action is a cross-cutting issue. We can have, and Anita spoke about climate change and I mean the climate change and health. There are different ways that you can incorporate climate action into your work. Currently, there's a lady that we know, she's called Sylvia. She has a project running that is built on mental health and then climate change. So you're looking at how climatic risks and impacts affect the mental health of people who are experiencing it. And it is a place that's almost untapped. You hardly hear people ask about how this has affected people's behaviors, people's mental health and things. So you can have a way that you marry both aspects. When it comes to health, you can look at climate change and health from a different perspective, from socioeconomic perspective, that is, which people are more affected by climate change, how can these people adapt? You can look at it from a gendered perspective. When it comes to the different gender types, like male, female, etc., how are these effects differential amongst males and then amongst females? How do we make sure that either those who are being affected more are being taken care of? What type of diseases are getting more rampant? So it's like there are so many ways that you can look at it. That's why I keep encouraging that think outside the box. When you think outside the box, yeah, the possibilities are endless and the innovations many. Yeah, I think that's it. That answers the question. Yeah. I see a couple of hands up. I saw Nicholas and there were two others, but I can't seem to figure out where they are.
Okay. Thank you very much, Valerie. If anybody has any other question, I'm sure we are through. This has been very comprehensive and very impactful webinar. I'm sure CDK is also organizing another one. So I'll let my members and some of the students join. So you can share the link with me. I will share on our platform so that they register. I'll be there myself.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Ansa. Is Dr. Ansa still on the line? Maybe he has a message for us. Dr.
Yes,
Ansa.
yes.
Okay, hi guys. All right.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All right. I've been listening in, and I think some of these conversations are really important. And yeah, all the speakers did good job to it. Maybe the few things I want to add to what everybody has said is that the climate, this whole climate discourse and this whole climate change thing is something that is affecting everybody, regardless of who you are, where you are, your profession. It's irrespective of gender, irrespective of everybody is impacted one way or the other. And because of this impact, it also brings a lot of opportunities. As Valerie has mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities that come out of it. And for me, I'm very big on how young people could take advantage of in the entrepreneurship space and create solutions that matters and create solutions that help people adapt, help mitigation, costs, help in different ways, from agriculture to health, from tech to, every space at all. So you have to, as Valerie mentioned earlier, keeps mentioning, you have to think outside the box and also see that, this parenting conversation goes beyond the academic walls, right? Goes beyond even policy conversation walls. And its most impact is felt in the real world thing. I heard, Anita mentioned about you taking responsibility, taking a lead, taking an action on your own, taking a personal responsibility, in the process, where you also contribute to this whole, trying to get the climate this conversation to a different level, where adaptation, people feel supported, people feel they are well, supported in different ways. So that's what I want to add. Please take advantage of it from different spaces, academia, in sports. There's an opening. Get to our website. One of the things is that just get to our website. There are lots of opportunities there. We're going to add more. The opportunities that I saw recently in one of our cycles, where they were advertising climate change and sports. People wouldn't think about what's the relationship between the two, but there's a relationship because everybody is impacted, and because everybody's impacted and every sector or every area is impacted, that means a solution is being needed from all these sectors. So don't limit yourself, explore, expand, think, outside the box, and believe you me, together we are going to help, solve the climate crisis locally in Ghana, and also globally we contribute as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ansa. We are much grateful for the little time you spent with us. Okay, so people, I'm sure we've learned a lot. So I want to ask some of us questions. After we've gone through today's series, first of all, the sciences, we talk about sustainability, and we also talk about the career. Can somebody tell me what they are going away with? Just one person. If you can unmute and tell us, what are you going away with? I'm sure you've actually learned something new today. I want one of you to just unmute and tell us what they've learned and what they want to do right after here. Any volunteer? Oh, I should mention name. Why am I members? Let me mention name.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, so this is Emmanuel.
Okay.
Sorry, I joined late. I was in a meeting, so I quickly stopped that meeting and joined this one. It's really important, and I would like to thank all the speakers. In fact, they've really impacted us. We are grateful to them. What I've learned this evening is the question that our sister answered, that climate change issues, we cannot solve it holistically. I mean, simultaneously. She said that you have to look at the specific region, specific country. So she tried to answer the use of renewable energy in some countries like China, and say that, look, yeah, those places, they are developed and we are a developing country. So yeah, we can do it. It's doable, but it should be gradual. I mean, you should go it step by step. And this is very important to me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, sure. Thank you very much, Ima, I think Ima is not in Ghana. He's joining from UK. He called me the last time. He said, "Boris, I've seen the flyer. I want to be part of this." Thank you very much for joining. Ima joining from UK. So thank you, people. You end it here. So everybody who participates will receive a certificate. Okay. Yes, and I'm very much grateful to CDKN. I'm very much grateful to EPA. Very much grateful to Women in Sustainability Africa for coming on board to educate us. This is not the end. So anytime any of the organization is organizing any program, you can put us on. You'll come and help. Yes, and I'm hoping that when school resume, when students report, we have more of this in person. Okay, thank you very much. We shall take the closing prayer, well, the closing remarks. Thelma, is Thelma here? Thelma. Thelma. Oh, she's not here. So I think I'll do the closing remarks myself. So I want to appreciate each one of you. I'm sure you've learned something new. So if you have any idea that you really want to send to the community, you can reach out to any of these organizations, EPA, Women for Sustainability Africa. You can reach out to CDKN. I'm sure they'll be willing to help you to sell your ideas and I'm sure they are looking for more people to join to run this. If you want to get in touch with them, either through email or personal contacts, you can reach out to me. I will share their contact details to you. Okay, so let's pray as we end the meeting. So our Heavenly Father, we thank you for a very successful webinar. We thank you that you've taken us through. We've learned the issue of climate change. We've learned the issue of sustainability. And we concluded with what we can do and careers we can pick in the field of climate change. We hope that we send the knowledge we gain here into our community and make Ghana and the world a better place. In the name of Jesus, we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Okay, so thank you very much. Amen. Thank you very much for joining. Yes. So the meeting has officially ended. Meeting has officially ended.
Amen.
Thank you too.
Yes.
Bye.
So if you have
Thank you.
anything that you
Thank
want
you.
to do, you can reach out to me personally. I'll share any contacts you want or any network you need.
All right. And also, can we have get access to the recording of today's meeting?
Yes, please. I recorded it. So once I process it, I'll send a link so that we can all have access to it. It's also on YouTube, so I'll share that one with you all.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody.
You too.